Welcome back. Well, in our Feel Good Sunday segment, the prestigious Crown Gospel Music Awards returned this year for the 15th year of recognizing excellence in the gospel music industry. This week, the awards announced its nominees across 30 categories for this year's awards at a virtual ceremony. To tell us more about what we can expect at this year's awards is executive producer of the Crown Gospel Music Awards, Zanele Mbokazi. Zanele, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us in our studios this morning. 15 years of running this awards ceremony. Talk to us about what it takes to year after year keep coming back and coming back even stronger.
Thank you so much for having me, Ngiyabonga kakhulu. 15 years, it's a big milestone for us. It takes everything. It takes everything. Sweat, tears, fighting, breaking down doors. That's what it takes, really. When we started back in 2007, excuse me, a lot of people mocked our idea. They didn't believe that we were going to be able to stage a gospel music show of this magnitude. They looked at the gospel industry at that time. In fact, there was no industry because we really had to create the industry by building the craft of the artist, by entrenching the ideas of excellence in what we're doing. At that time, we had people who will have a sleeve with a photocopied picture. It was, we're doing it for God kind of thing at that time. We're still doing it for God, but we have now believed that excellence must be the name of the game. So it takes planning, it takes meticulous planning, it takes organization, it's a huge project. There are so many divisions, and gospel music is different from the other genres. So it takes everything, but it takes a team that is dedicated. It takes a vision that is clear, because from day one, we're very clear in terms of what we want to do and where we want to go. We've achieved some of those things, but there's still so much more to achieve.
I mean, anecdotally, I think I can attest to what you're talking about, the scaling up of excellency in the gospel music industry. I was just talking to my colleague, Buhle Madulini, about, the last time I went to a worshipping experience, that it was, in fact, it was an experience. It wasn't just an artist on the stage performing, but it was an all-encompassing experience. And so you want to take an opportunity to celebrate artists who take their crafts very seriously.
Absolutely.
Talk to us about that. You've got 30 categories at these awards. Talk to us about those.
Look, when we started, we had about 10 categories because it was mostly traditional gospel and a little bit of contempt. But we've grown the industry. We now have gospel R&B, we've got gospel jazz, we've got gospel rap, we've got gospel hip-hop, we've got gospel poetry, gospel comedy. It's amazing. The 15 years has produced so much, and sometimes we take it for granted because it's like it was always like this. No, it wasn't. It wasn't always like this. So we announced on Friday the nominees, and what I love the most is the changing nature, how gospel is evolving every year. If you look at the nominees for this year, it's fresh. There are so many new guys who are doing amazing, amazing things. And we love that. And obviously the biggest categories will always be the best gospel artist and the best gospel song. And everyone is always looking forward to that because the public gets to nominate, get to vote and decide on that. But it's such an honor to get an opportunity to be nominated, but also the stage. That opportunity, you get 3 minutes or 2 minutes to do your song, and life changes for most people. At least those are the testimonies that we've been able to get from our artists.
Yeah. I want to talk about the theme for this year's awards, which is Ebenezer, which talks to the stone of help. It talks to divine assistance from God. Talk to us about that, because we know that the COVID-19 pandemic had a devastating impact on the industry, not just the gospel industry, but across all sectors. A lot of them are still recovering even today. Your award ceremony is probably a huge part of that recovery effort as well. So just talk to us about that and why it's so important to note this theme of Ebenezer this year.
We qualify Ebenezer. We sang Ebenezer and then we sang the crown footprints are visible. Because we're looking back. We're looking at the 15 years. We're looking at what we have been able to achieve. We're looking at what God has allowed us to achieve. So when we say Ebenezer, and we're looking at our footprints, we look at the people that have come from the crown. So some of them were very good, but in the periphery. Nobody knew about them. And one moment at the crowns, everything changed. But we're also surrendering. We're raising our hands. We're saying to God, if it wasn't for you, we would not be here. COVID devastated a lot of people, a lot of artists. They didn't have any revenue. It was hard. Depression, mental health issues. And we had to come up with programs to mitigate that. And we lost a lot of people as well. So it's been hard. The lockdown was the hardest thing for all of us. So when we say Ebenezer, we are truly saying this year we are inviting you, we are inviting that mother, we are inviting that family to say, through it all, God has been good. The fact that we're still here, come and join us in raising our hands, in saying, Ebenezer, siyabonga baba, enkosi bawo. If it wasn't for you, we would not have been able to see the footprints that we are looking at. When we look back, iti ngoma, when I remember what the Lord has done, that's exactly what we're going to be saying on the 27th of November.
Indeed. Beautiful. So I want to talk about, what you mentioned, the crop of names that have come up in the nomination process. We have our gospel heavyweights, your Hlengiwe Mhlabas, your Ndozo Mbambos, we've had a younger contemporary group, your Kayan Tetos, who have introduced different sounds and ingested that into gospel music as a whole. What are the trends that you're seeing now? You mentioned gospel jazz, gospel rap. How has the reception been for new kinds of gospel music in the industry?
A mixed, it's been received with mixed emotions.
Because it's historically a very traditional industry.
Listen, we trended for all the wrong reasons when we introduced gospel hip-hop at the Crown Awards. Hey, basishaya. Hey, but this is not gospel anymore. But looking back, about 6 years down the line, there is so much that has changed, and there's so much gospel hip-hop now on our timelines. And we love that, because sometimes we have to take the bullets, because people do not see what we see. So even when people say, we don't want gospel rap, we don't want gospel maskandi, we don't want gospel, we still do it, because there is somebody at home who may not listen to Hlengiwe or Mam Rips, but will listen to a hip-hop gospel song, because the young people, remember, we are a very youthful nation. So we have to think about all that. So some of the new names, you've got your Pindi P's, the lady who sings Kunomehluko Cindy Ndombela, you've got your Opiwa Mainanga from Limpopo, you've got Lungindala. It's new, it's fresh. It's amazing. We just love it.
And it's countrywide.
It's countrywide.
Yes.
It's country. It's definitely. There is Tebogo Moloi in the Free State. There is Kolisa Kwinana in the Western Cape. So it's truly a national event, a national property, but also with an element of an African continent, because we've got a category where we allow our brothers and sisters from outside our borders to participate.
Right. Well, I'm sure everyone who's been watching is excited to see the awards come the 27th of November. But thank you so much, Zanele, for joining us in our studios today. That is, of course, the executive producer of the Crown Gospel Music Awards, Zanele Mbokazi. Butlema Dilini is up next with the results from this morning's Twitter poll.